Hey YouTube, what's happening? It's Rev, Brian Norris. I'm here just real quick. I did not plan to do a video today. It feels like deja vu. It feels like deja vu. It's not been that long ago that my friends and I were noticing, and this isn't the first time with this YouTuber, but it's not the first time with a legion of YouTubers in the gun culture that have been banned and harassed, and YouTube has uh, not given any real answers, not given any real answers to what guidelines are being broken. They just think that we are such a small subset of their business that they can treat us as they will. I want to remind us all, those of us that might think of situations like this as, and for those of you that don't know, a friend of mine, a mentor, a teacher of mine, and many on YouTube and in other places. Uh, Today, I don't know what's going to come of it, but once again has begun to be harassed as his monetization has been brought down. I don't think there's any one of us, even small channels like my own, have had over the years lots and lots of uh, videos that for a long time existed on YouTube without, for years, existed on YouTube without any kind of issue. And they were monetized and brought in small amounts of income. They all of a sudden were no longer all right. The content hadn't changed, but they were uh, demonetized or removed or became problematic. And so all these things have happened. And I just want to remind us all, those of us that might think, well, so and so is being harassed, but they're inflammatory, or so and so is being checked, but they probably did something. No, no, don't be that way. This Gestapo is coming for us all. And you might think, well, YouTube, it's a private entity. They can do what they will. Um, I want to make a couple real clear statements. First of all, from my perspective, um, we should absolutely force every social media platform to kick us off. We should not be silent. We should not stop doing what we have every ability to do. Certainly, we need to play within societal norms, but we should speak freely and we should speak up and we should not mute ourselves as we're, hey, sorry guys, a fellow plumber, what's up, Richard? It's good to see you. Hey, Patriot Matt, what's happening, man? It's good to see you guys. Didn't plan on doing this. It's spring break. The kids are out of the house, and I just noticed something this afternoon. I'm like, man, I got to make sure that we put something up. I, I just want you guys to remember. Maybe you don't know James. Maybe you don't know Mr. Yeager. Okay, do you believe in freedom? Freedom of speech. You say, man, I don't even believe in the Second Amendment. I don't care about gun ownership. Do you care about free speech? Um, I think you should care about both of these things. But if you don't care about um, freedom at all, then you're really not going to be interested in this conversation. And I'm not going to keep going on and on here. I just want to remind us of just a very simple principle. We are all connected. I don't know who mentioned it most recently to me, and I'm not going to get all scientific. I didn't do any prep. I just sat down and turned on the mic. I'm going to turn it off and I'm going to walk away. Um, Years ago, we said unban James Yeager. I would say unban James Yeager again. I don't think he's been banned yet, but I would say that that is for sure coming. We need to make sure that these entities recognize we need that we are a much more significant part of their business than they recognize. We need to find ways, consistent ways, to continue to speak up and speak out and let our presence be known that uh, then we have to communicate where it hurts, where it's felt, and that is in the income, the revenue, the advertising stream that YouTube gets. And I look, um, for years, this has been an environment where free speech was welcome, and that is waning. That is waning, and it's not just in this subset in this industry. It is it's systematically losing ground. Free speech is systematically losing ground at every large scale water cooler on the internet, every meeting space, every place that you can sit and have a conversation. It is being encroached upon. And at one time, I would have made the argument that that was just people valuing their bottom line. They had big companies that were selling advertisements at and packages, and they're saying, "Hey, look, we're going to lose this advertising revenue because it's not mainstream content enough." That's clearly not the case anymore. It's clear to people on all sides of the political fence. It's clear to people in every side of this conversation that will be objective that there are clear and present agendas. I mean, go and listen to the founder of Twitter. Go and listen. I mean, there are clear and present agendas um, that are going to remove access. And I don't want to get into a big technical conversation. Yeah, it's not just about the money, brother. It's really not. It's about um, a judgmental perspective that believes one worldview is vastly superior to all others, and there's a group of um, kind of elite thinkers that think they can do better with the world by being in control. They can mute people. Um, they know what's best for us all. And it's not. I'm not talking politics here. I'm talking about um, something altogether different. Anyway, it's a different conversation, and I don't mean to get into the weeds. I just want to say um, we're all connected. If you don't know James, you don't have to know that this is important for you. If you care about free speech, if you care about freedom in general, this is important for you. It's not just an American issue, it's an important issue as an American. But when we get into environments that are global, like the internet, this is an important thing for us all. If we're going to have a free exchange of ideas, this is a huge issue. Um, you have to remember that YouTube is the second largest search engine. It's the second largest aggregator of information on the internet, and the first is owned by the same company, Google. You have to remember that we can duck, duck, go as much as we want, but the reality is that information is being filtered through what you see when you open your phone. If you haven't watched uh, the social dilemma, I think it is on the documentary or whatever, take time to do some research, uh, even from Hollywood and other perspectives. Look, countries that are coming up right now. I'm sorry to ramble here. I didn't have a planned thought process, and we'll get in and get out. Countries that are developing, when the average person does not have a cell phone, and cell phones are being introduced to third world areas, they're being loaded with Facebook. And Facebook is the one app that is free, and their media, their data, we used to call it here in the States, is not being charged through that app. So if somebody wants to spend money to get internet, um, that's an additional charge that the majority of the consumers don't have, but they can access information for free with their regular plan through Facebook. And so what what Facebook is doing in these developing countries is they are becoming the internet. They are becoming the total environment of information propagation in those developing areas. And they're doing so effectively. The internet is smaller in those areas, but they're serving all the content that they want. And this is happening in all kinds of channels within our own environment. What you see, what you understand when it comes to the news is channeled through these increasingly developed filters. And I don't mean to get into all that. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I just want to remind us all that we are James Yeager. We are connected. Um, I think I heard some preacher talking about redwoods a while back, and I don't know all the facts, but the specific facts, but you can look it up on the internet. I'm sure you'll find this used by all kinds of TED talkers or whatever. Redwoods, these giant 300-foot trees with incredible bases that you'd have to get all your friends together to touch hands to get around. That they're these huge, monstrous trees. They have very limited roots in comparison to much smaller trees like oaks. They have much shorter roots than you would expect. They go uh, far shallower in the ground than you would expect. When you do the math from tree to tree, it doesn't make sense. There's no way this tree's root system can hold the tree up. It has too much mass. It's impossible. The difference between redwoods and many other trees of smaller size is redwoods all grow together. They grow in proximity to one another. And so, though their root system does not go as broad or as deep, their root system interconnects with the other redwoods in proximity. And so when storms come, that would absolutely, as they stand alone, they would fall. But because of their connectivity, because of their community, because of the way that they interact with one another, they stand strong. And I want to remind us that we are not just separate individuals. We are a culture that must stand together. And so, whether you know one another or not, when you hear of these encroachments that are no longer subtle, they are bold and in your face, and they are daily taking ground. And they're saying, you know what? You don't have a right to be you. You don't have a right to speak your ideas, your opinions, and even facts that we don't like. You don't have that right. And we're not even going to tell you why. We're just going to shout you down and bully you off of the ground. I'm encouraging you all, don't give this ground. Find ways, subtly and out loud, find ways to make these large entities, not just YouTube, but YouTube is a representative of so many social interaction areas. So many. I mean, think Facebook, think Instagram, think Google, uh, think Twitter. I mean, the list goes on and on. These places where the free exchange of ideas once was common and now is becoming more filtered, find ways to communicate your dissatisfaction with these decisions in ways that impact their bottom line. Don't just do that. Do create new competition. Do create your own infrastructure. Do build on the benefits of one another. But listen, the answer is not to have some lesser, like to go cloister ourselves off and have a group think where the ideas that we that they find offensive and that we find so crucial and dear, we hold them to be dear. The answer is not to go take them outside of the public square. The answer is not to go take them into a groupthink environment where everybody there agrees with us, where we've got an increasingly divided, oh, these people all agree with the, you know, whatever you want to call this agenda, um, I don't even like the word liberal because the word liberal, um, in the classical sense was, I believe that you have the liberty to enjoy, um, I don't know. We could that's a whole different conversation. But I think most of us would think of this socially, not socially, this agenda that is prevalent, um, in our day. The virtue signaling, the superiority, oh, honey, if you just knew, if you just had education, you would see it the way we see it. I remember when I thought that. I remember when uh, I still had my own autonomy and identity and understood the value of freedom and was willing to talk to somebody that disagreed with me and to even have a an engagement of ideas that some people would consider a fight, but we certainly didn't, and walk away laughing as friends. I remember when that kind of hostility, what they would say, that hostility was commonplace, but now we've evolved, and now we see it in such a more civilized way. You know, I don't know, man. I might not even be saying anything that makes sense. I just know that I'm tired of it, and you should be too. You should be tired. You should be tired of people that are simply trying to help other people shut down. I mean, this man's business has been built and rebuilt on the internet, um, multiple times now. And some person that that is sitting behind a screen, not willing to pick up a phone, not willing to have a face-to-face conversation, not even willing to write an email of explanation. Some woke little mamby-pamby person thinks that they can just click away and ruin people's business. Now, Jaeger's business is not going to be ruined, but make no mistake, these are significant disruptions that happen on a daily basis. And some of you guys, some of you smaller businesses that are getting started, these kind of disruptions, they can ruin you. They can ruin you. Guys like me, I do this as a very minor side hustle. Whatever, man. You kill my YouTube channel, no big deal. But, I could have been building this business to be my livelihood, and it could have been developed into that. That person that would build a situation like I'm a freelance writer and a regular contributor in places, and was doing it, um, marketing consultation for some time, and search engine optimization, all in this space. And I was working on this business, and you could have easily turned that into a significant business that it could have been my family's livelihood, and we could have lived uh, um, anywhere that the internet had good enough service. And in this case, one of the most significant segments of that business model would just be gone overnight. This could happen to many of our friends and many of our family, and they could lose the ability to put food on the table for their families, not by any real forethought, because somebody clicked a mouse thinking, I don't like that. He shouldn't be able to say it with that tone. Now, um, you followed Mr. Yeager's channel years ago. Um, Look, he probably wouldn't want me to say this, but he is mellowed. I don't know what in the world you would uh, call call issue over, in contrast to so many things that are all over YouTube. I mean, good night. YouTube is filled with stuff that is targeting children to show, to channel them to pornography. YouTube still is full of things that are marketed as cartoons that have explicit content specifically to find and channel kids to pedophiles. It's all over the place in YouTube. If you want to spend some time, YouTube, cut that stuff out and leave patriotic, red blooded Americans doing their business in the heart of the homeland alone. Leave James Yeager alone. Not just because he's my friend, because your country, if your country fell on hard times, it's men like James Yeager that would cover your butt. You behind a keyboard right now, clicking and ruining aspects of his business for the short term. Do you not understand you need people like this? You need men like this. You need women like this to survive in hard times. Do you not understand that the what you see in your social bubble is so limited? It is so limited, and you're missing the point. You're missing the point. Just because you don't understand doesn't mean it's not necessary. I don't know, guys. Just find a way to show James Yeager and Tactical Response some love and spread the word that his Liber TV, his own uh, his own hosting platform that YouTube and nobody else can take from him, has content worthy of you checking out. And this is bigger than James Yeager. Go look at all of the other gun tubers and a ton of other patriotic people on YouTube and show them support as well. Um, but find a way together as a community, find a way to make our voice heard and for this to be felt at the bottom line, that this unacceptable behavior to be felt at the pocketbooks of these big businesses. We have to find a way, and it can't just be little mamby-pamby efforts. We have to come together. You find your way, you find your way, and I'll find mine. But don't make the mistake of just kind of keeping your head down and thinking, I don't know that guy. No, no, no. He is you. He is me. We are. If they'll mess with him, they'll mess with you. They'll mess with me. In fact, right now, they're probably um, they're probably looking for something to say. Huh, we're going to slap Brian's wrist. Slap away. Um, True warrior versus keyboard warrior. That's it. That's right. Stop hiding behind that. We need more interaction. And by the way, if somebody disagrees with you as a culture, that's one of the things that's so valuable about our voice in this country. The gun culture, as a rule, has been, and I don't mean the gun community, but the gun culture as a rule has been made up of people that can disagree wholeheartedly and chuckle about it. We're not thin skinned. That doesn't need to change. But one thing that does need to begin to change is far too often we've been far too segmented. Far too often we've been too camped up and too, well, I'm of this group and they're of that group. And if it doesn't directly impact us, we don't have anything that we have to do about it. That's not the gun culture. That's the gun community. Take time to recognize that if it impacts one of us, that's freedom loving. It impacts all of us. Stand together, stand strong. You guys be well.